Good morning, and welcome to the live stream. David Boles live with you. As my wonderful Uncle Mills might have said many years ago in Nebraska, well, Davy, well. It's been a little bit of a wild morning here on the East Coast. Comcast, Xfinity, our internet provider, was down for maybe an hour. Sort of terrifying in a way. And I guess last night they melted down in San Francisco for like an hour or so, longer than that. So it seems like they had a rolling blackout, just like a storm, moving from west to east. And it hit us around 8:10. It's now 10 a.m. here. And it lasted for maybe 45 minutes. Then, as I know, we lost internet. Phone, internet, TV, everything out. And as we know with Comcast, when something goes out and then comes back, it goes out again. And then it comes back. And then it slows down a little. And then it comes back. So, I might see you for the next couple of hours in this live stream, or we might get disconnected in 5 minutes. I have no idea. But we're going to press forward and soldier on, because I think we've given it just enough time to let everything come back, let the internet get back, everyone who's offline, panicking, getting back online. And what concerns me the most about this internet outage with Comcast is the lack of failover for high-speed internet if you're a home user or even a business user. In this building, we live in a new fancy, brand new built building. You can have one internet cable service provider. You can't have two. There's only one cable in the building to each apartment. You pick. Right now is between Comcast, Xfinity, and Verizon Fios. And Fios is a very good, wonderful internet provider. Comcast, we started with them 17 years ago, 20 years ago, and we've been with them ever since. And we stay because there was no choice where we used to live, and when you move, Comcast makes it really easy and profitable for you in some ways to get a very good deal to stay with them. But if something with this live stream that just held together with spit and sealing wax would happen, my camera stopped working. I have another camera right over here. My lights stopped working. I have two more lights over here. Microphone goes down. I can use the microphone on my computer. I have another microphone just like this right over there for interviews I do. I have a wide variety of getting online and saying hello to you. I have backup systems. I have redundant systems. However, I do not have a backup to Comcast. When Comcast goes down for internet, I'm not talking about TV, but internet, you're down and you're out. Now I can fire up my phone and connect with Verizon to LTE, 4G, 5G, whatever. But that isn't, and then connect this to my computer, and then we can stream together, or I can just stream live from my phone to you. It's not the same. It's not as fast. It's not going to be as good. Not as reliable. So what do? And it makes you realize if we had something really terrible happen here in America, let's say a terrible attack by a foreign entity with bad intentions, take down our electrical grid, well, you're going to lose your internet. They attack our internet, well, you're going to lose your internet. And then what do? You go to your cell phone and try to live stream, talk to somebody. Because when I was emailing Jana saying, hey, live stream's going to be a little delayed today, she was sort of saying, oh, And it took her a long time to say, oh, because I couldn't really get through to her. Because everyone was on LTE. Everyone was busy trying to create a redundant backup. But it's not the same. We need to find a way to have a redundant backup for high-speed internet. Or we're going to be stuck. And things are going to be late, and you're an hour late. And everyone's upset because you're an hour late. Emailing, where are you? So that's a good way to start the day. So let's discuss some things that are going on in the world and things that happened here yesterday. Had some wonderful reaction to my, what I call a rant, but it was more a thoughtful discussion, I guess. But rant is better. About the TikTok thing with the hand signals and the B, the M, domestic violence. And there were a couple of interesting thoughts. First of all, that video that highlight, which is a little section of this long stream, I was able to download it from Twitch and then upload it to YouTube. And then YouTube, because they're just magical, auto closed captioned that video. And it took a couple of hours, but it worked. And Jan and I watched it together. And I would say it had 99% accuracy. I think it missed 2 words. And I am not always clear-mouthed and specific. But that was very, very impressive. There are captioning services. Charge you $1.25 per minute to caption something. So 30-minute video is going to run you around $40. YouTube does it for free. And having it closed captioned allowed me to then share that video with the deaf community, which is really quite wonderful. So thank you, Google. I wish TikTok would auto-caption their presentations. Facebook does. They do an excellent job as well, but we can't stream to Facebook because this lovely music you're hearing is not cleared to run on Facebook for some reason. It's licensed legally to run on Twitch and YouTube, but not the Facebook. So Jan and I were discussing the video we watched and the distribution of it to some of our friends. It has several nice views and comments. We're very delighted with it. And she said, you know, it's an interesting thing, this, how the Canadian people decided that this is the sign for domestic violence when it's already established in the deaf community and the interpreting community. The DV is domestic violence. You sign that to somebody who knows sign language and they know what's going on and you need help. And she made an interesting comment last night where she said many hearing children are raised and taught, sometimes with baby signs, and sometimes just learning the manual alphabet as a way to communicate. And they know the alphabet, and ASL is hand shapes based on alphabet. The A hand shape is a hand shape. It also is an A, but it's a hand shape. And she said many of these kids grow up knowing some of the alphabet. So how easy is it to take the next step that's already established and say, hey, if you ever see D and V, instead of this, if you see D and V, that means someone needs help. And if you're young and you don't know what to do, find an adult, say, hey, that person over there I think needs help. We got a DV signal, domestic violence. It's already in the culture, it's already in the system, it's already in the bodies of these young children who grew up learning the manual ASL alphabet. So I thought that was a really good point and a really interesting take on this domestic violence issue and giving signals and gestures and trying to exchange moments of urgency in public places without getting caught by people who are trying to hurt you. And this, invention of the BM and the DV made me think of something when I was younger growing up in the Midwest. It was well known when you were in high school and sexual activity was beginning to hover around you that Planned Parenthood was a good, safe, cheap place to go for men or women who needed assistance in preventing pregnancy or dealing with a pregnancy. And in one particular Planned Parenthood in our neighborhood, there was a key phrase that was shared with usually the young women, where if there was a problem with their tests or something that they needed to call in or get a reminder to call in, there was something wrong with you, a disease, a pregnancy, something that needed to be addressed. And that Planned Parenthood would say, if you're not home, we are going to leave a message for you. And we're going to say, if your parents answer, Barbie called. And you would know that Barbie called mean, that's really Planned Parenthood. That's a code phrase. So I got to figure out a way to go over there or call them outside of home, because that's why I go to Planned Parenthood, because I don't want my parents to know what I'm doing. And when I heard about that, me as a guy who was not sexual at all early in my life, I thought it was interesting that somehow I was able to know that. And all of the other people in the high school knew that. And I thought, well, if we know that, why don't the parents know that? Can you imagine being a parent of a young high school person, most likely female, getting a call, hey, Barbie called. Planned Parenthood. And the interesting thing is, when I was in high school, and the reason Planned Parenthood used the name Barbie is because there were not a lot of people named Barbie. So it was a unique name that meant something, and maybe they changed the name every once in a while, but for as long as I can remember, Barbie meant Planned Parenthood. But it was interesting, when I was in high school, we actually had a woman in class named Barbie. And she was highly religious and very proper. But a lot of makeup, which was interesting. So, if Barbie called, there were some people who didn't get it, that was really Planned Parenthood. And so they would call Barbie, this ultra-religious young woman, who would get these calls from desperate other young women in her high school saying, what are my test results? Am I pregnant or not? What happened? This is the days before the instant test, and you could buy a test in a drugstore and know within minutes if you were pregnant or not. And so Barbie was actually very kind. If she answered the phone, if her parents answered the phone, they kind of knew what was going on and would hang up. But if Barbie happened to answer the phone with this person calling in an emergency saying, well, what are my test results? Barbie would say, you need to call someone else. You've called the wrong Barbie. And then the people calling would get it, oh no, not this Barbie, a different Barbie. So it's interesting how these things propagate and how these things change, and how one meaning in one culture can mean something else in the context of a different culture. And it reminds me, in the deaf community, there is a sign for a-hole. And I'm not going to say the word, but you can spell it out if you want to. A-hole. And it looks like this. And for many years in the deaf community, you'd, hide this sign. Like if you were taking a picture, you'd put your arm around your friend, put on their shoulder. Oh, isn't that funny? Can you catch it? Where is it? Where's the bad sign? And that, I don't want to call it a sign. Let's say signal. That signal has now been propagated, stolen from the deaf community, and appears to be now a white supremacy symbol. Well, like flashing this means, hey, I'm cool. I don't think it means, hey, I'm an a-hole, but maybe it does. I don't know. I'm not in that community. I'm in the deaf community. And I remember very clearly during, I believe, the Brett Kavanaugh hearings. It was one of the three. I don't think it was Barrett, and I don't think it was Gorsuch, but I do believe it was Kavanaugh, because that was wild. And Kavanaugh was there fumfering and yelling at people, and behind him was a woman sitting in a chair. And she sat there for many hours, and it was very bizarre, because she was sitting, legs crossed and arms crossed, like this, flashing this sign. Sitting there like this. It was like this. Right on her elbow. For hours and hours and hours, she was posed like that with this smirk on her face. I thought, oh, she's sending a signal to keep the faith, white power, white supremacy, whatever. I don't think she was saying she's an a-hole or that he's an a-hole. But maybe she was. But that's what happens when you borrow signs, signals, steal signs and signals from one culture to another, and try to put them in your culture, and the whole thing explodes in your face. Not a great thing. Nasty. Happens all the time. So, one more final thought about this TikTok and deaf community issue is this idea of ASL students taking space that belongs to deaf people. For example, going to a movie premiere intended for deaf audiences with interpreters and open captions, and taking up a seat and claiming it with righteousness that I am an ASL student and I am here to observe and to learn by symbiosis about American Sign Language. And I understand these press companies are desperate to fill seats for these premieres, but sometimes it's more valorous to decline and say, you know, why don't you offer my seat to an actual deaf person? We'll enjoy the deaf person on screen and the interpreters and be involved for once in a very deep and esoteric way with this installation of community and sharing. And many years ago, at a major East Coast university, ASL students were sent by the ASL program to go to deaf events as part of an immersion tactic. And so these students would go to interpreted, usually by deaf people for deaf people, interpreted tours of spaces, artwork, mainly museums. And so they'd be so excited, these deaf interpreters would say, oh my gosh, I have 10 people coming to watch my guided ASL interpretation of the artwork. And then they'd find out that these weren't deaf people at all. These were hearing students learning ASL, didn't know ASL enough to understand what was going on. They were sent there by their program, and they were there against their will, and they didn't want to be there, but they were there because they wanted to get a good grade. And so there's tour guides would, go on with the tour because they were getting paid to give a tour. But in the end, they'd say, wow, what's the point? This is a tour for deaf people. This is not a tour for people learning ASL so they can watch me and ask me questions about what I'm signing. And so what happened was really interesting is these museums kind of banded together and wrote a letter to the head of the program saying, please do not send your students to our deaf events. These events are for deaf people, and not for hearing students learning ASL in your program. And this wasn't just museums, this was happening on Broadway, where they would do interpreted performances, shadow interpreted, regular interpreted, open caption interpreted performances on Broadway for the deaf, and the deaf would sit down front near the interpreters with reserved seats that were sold to the deaf community. And they were discounted seats, and some hearing ASL students would want a cheap seat to go see a Broadway play down close, and they would grab up these seats. And they were asked to stop that as well. So it's interesting how opportunity meets effervescence. And sometimes it's bubbly and fun, and sometimes it just kind of blows up in your face. So be careful out there. Be thoughtful and be wary of other people and what's going on around you. Because you never know who's paying attention and who's coming after you, or to steal your signs, or to call you an a-hole or not an a-hole, or to invite you to an event but not really because you're not the right kind of person to be at the event because this event is made for somebody else. Now, speaking of dismay, I can't imagine this morning that Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, is feeling very good or secure in her job. And I say this because in the news, it has been revealed that Kamala Harris is not well liked. She has a bad approval rating. And so does Joe Biden. Is it deserved? In my opinion, yes. I think both of them together have not been great because they have a PR problem. Joe Biden is not a good explainer. And Kamala Harris, when you get down to it, as Joe Biden told us, was picked because she is a woman. Not because she's the best candidate. If Joe Biden had said, I'm picking the best candidate, period, and then picked her, we probably have a different story. But from the beginning, he said, my vice president's going to be a woman. So right there you think, okay, so he's limiting his choices. He's limiting his field. He's doing the politically correct thing. He's woke. We get it. But you want to have faith in the people who do the right thing. So her approval rating, Biden's is like 39%, which is terrible. And Harris's is worse, which is 28%. And my take on this is I've never really understood the appeal of Kamala Harris. As I said, she's a former prosecutor. She is all axe and no scalpel. And the job of being a vice president is knowing how to persuade and influence people. Politics is about being liked. You want people to spend time with you. You want people to vote for you. And if you're cold and chilly and analytic and tough and going after people with an axe instead of a scalpel to get your way, people tend not to like that very much. And the feeling I've had from Kamala Harris, just watching her, is that she is not a terribly warm or friendly person and not really engaging. And I think that's a problem for her and the whole Democratic Party moving forward, if she's going to try to be the standard bearer taking over for Biden if he doesn't run again in 2024. My pick for president was always Pete Buttigieg. I think he's very formidable as a candidate. He has a lovely family now. He's head of transportation. He has national experience, national exposure, and he's really smart. He's not going to let anybody from the other side trap him. He's very likable, and he's a veteran. He's hard to beat. But he's a white guy, so Joe Biden wouldn't even consider him, because he's a guy. So Kamala fits a lot of the needs, made a lot of history. I want her to succeed. I want her to do well. I want her to be liked. But she was the first person out in the Democrat primary. She took her things and left because she wasn't getting support. She wasn't getting money. She was not being terribly liked. It was a problem. So another person who's having maybe a bad day, but maybe a little bit of a better week is Scott Frost in Nebraska. We talked about him a couple of weeks ago, and how the trouble he was having is very concerning if you're a University of Nebraska-Lincoln football fan. He's coming back next year, which I think is a smart idea, but his buyout has been halved from $15 million to $7.5 million. And his salary has been cut from $5 million a year to $4 million a year. Plus, he fired 4 of his offensive coaches. So it will be interesting to see if and how Scott Frost can resurrect this team. I do think they're moving in the right direction. They are losing a lot, but they're not losing by a lot. They're in the games. They're close. They're competitive. So maybe if he can get some better players, maybe if he can get a toehold into some really excellent coaches who believe in him and believe in his system, Nebraska will be better. Defense is good. Offense needs a little bit of help. I'm going to share with you a lovely photo from our friend Dora. This is her son when he was young. And behind his head, you can see there's a brain that's made out of a sock. And her son was making a presentation in school about music and memory and how everything works and gets put together. Very interesting. Science fair. Won an award. And she sent that to me because we were previously talking about aphasia and how it affected Jana's mother when she had a stroke, and how her mother was able to hear things and understand them, but she could not read things, sign language, a newspaper, a letter with her eyes, and understand it. But she could write something on a piece of paper perfectly, made sense, English, structure, yes. And when she's done reading it, she couldn't understand what she had written. Couldn't go back and edit it because she couldn't read what was on the paper. But she could write on the paper. It's really fascinating. Memory, perception, meaning. And Dora found this photograph on her phone. Out of 4,000 pictures, she found this one from many, many years ago and shared it with us. So Dora, thank you so much for that. And now, my friend, it's that time. We're going to take a very brief blood pressure break. I will see you momentarily. And we are back. Thank you so much for being here, David Boles Live. Took a little moment to refresh some changes I made yesterday to get this fun stuff. There we go. Okay, now it's starting to fire this interesting informational tweets that were not working for the first part of the show. I wasn't sure what happened. Let's type a quote and see what kind of quote we get back. We come up, we fear to leave Boles Books. Oh, we have so much going on now. Good, it's working. It's working very slowly, but effectively. Everything's fine. We know what we're doing. So now we're still going to have a little bit of fun. As much fun as we can have without going to jail or paying a fine. Yes, it's that time of day. It's time for Really Bad Chess with your friend and mine, Ringo Starr. Just kidding, it's really me, Mr. David Boles. And today we're going back to Chessable because it's a little bit easier than it was when we did this last week. Why, do you ask? Well, I'm going to tell you. We started a new chapter. The other chapter, back rank, checkmates, well, we didn't do so well. But the longer you get into the chapter, the harder the puzzles get. So the puzzles we have now are easier to see and use because we're just starting out. So we'll see what happens. We might be cursing ourselves, you never know. So we'll start playing white. And remember, Chessable is timed, so it's a lot of pressure. We'll see what happens. Here we go. Okay, here we go. I'm white. I have 2 moves to get a checkmate. I'm white. Okay, I'm white. Yeah. I'm playing white, yes? Yes, white to play. Okay, I'm wasting my time. I like the pawn move to put the king in check. I didn't draw that right, but you know what I mean. So let's do it. That was the right move. And now, for the ending delight. Huzzah. Done. I earned 2 moves and 2 points. Very well done. Absolutely delightful. Now we're going to do it again. Now this next puzzle I have to move 3 times, so it's much more complicated, but I'm still playing white, so there is hope for me yet. Now, these puzzles love for you to put the king in check immediately, and they love for you to sacrifice your queen, but in these puzzles so far I haven't had a lot of queens, so I'm relieved, because I hate sacrificing her if I don't have to. That worked. That was 1, so we're going to do it again and go this way for 2. Yes, and now, what do we do? Aha! Very simply this, because the bishop protects the rook. We're doing really well. See, I told you I was good. But it's early in the chapter. We have lots of opportunities to make more mistakes. Now we're playing black. So black is to move. To move where and why? Move the queen. Protected by the pawn. Puts the king in check. King has to move. And then what do we do? It's 3 moves, so there's 1 move and then another move we have to make. There's no rush in trying to figure this out. We have all day. Because we're here to do well and to fight against the foes who are posed against us. I am liking this new epic musical background music we started yesterday via Pretzel Rocks. I call it cinematic music, but epic is fine. It will work as well. So, I guess I'll put the king in check this way? No, I used the wrong one. Oh, so I'm not going to do well on this puzzle. So now they forced me to make the right move, and that's that. Oh, I'm so disappointed. I got cocky. Now, here we go, and I'm white to play. Yes. White is playing. Well, I think I gotta put the king in the check, I think. I'm gonna go here right away. Okay, that's good. And then I think I go here. Bingo. 2 moves, 100 of percentages. Fabulous. Here we go again. White to play. I vote this. And this. I'm doing much better. I must be more relaxed and not be so pressured doing a live stream where everyone's watching. Black to play. Put the king in check, and the king moves. And now we move, and the king moves, and we're all going to be in trouble. Thank you. 100 of percentages. Now we're going to get really daring and go play the chess.com puzzle of the day. And today is the 9th. And this title is called Avoid Reactive Thinking. And white to move. And if we don't do well here, and we usually never do, we can always go back to Chessable and get more points. But this does give us a lot of time. We're not on a timer here. So white to move. Remember, these puzzles love a queen check and a queen sacrifice. Okay. So, I think we have to go here to here with the queen. That is the right move. Then what do we do? That is the question. White to move. We're not moving, are we? I'm thinking this has to be a knight move. But I could be wrong. Well, this is difficult. I don't know exactly what to do here. I guess I'll just move the knight, see if I can put the king in check. Aha! That did work. Now what? Harder than it should be. It's early in the week. These puzzles are supposed to be easy. Very difficult. I know it's there, I'm just not seeing it. Painful, painful. Very painful. I like this bishop move, but I'm not sure about it. Oh, I can't move because the queen is there, and I put my king in check, so I can't. That bishop is locked. Well, it has to be a queen move, because the bishop is... My white bishop is not going anywhere. It's just not going to go anywhere. It's difficult because I'm one move away from being checkmated myself, which is good because it's a lot of pressure. But what am I going to do about it? I don't know. I kind of just want to move my bishop here. No, that's not right. Well, I don't know exactly what to do. No, all I was getting into. Ah, queen move. Okay, so this has got to be some kind of sacrifice. It always is with these queen moves. No. 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 Oh boy. This is not going well. Easy but too hard, all at the same time. Disappointing. I admit it. Now let's do yesterday's puzzle. White to move. Should I stay or should I get a going? Well, who knows? White to move. Oh boy. I find this to be a hard puzzle, but I'm going to move this. Yeah. Okay, just give me a hint. Oh, alright, well, there's no place that's gonna go. Alright, so I can then do this. No, they don't want me to do that. I can then do this, which I like. Okay, and then chase, and then do that. Okay. We're getting better all the time. Now what? Well, I guess I would just take the bishop. That's what I would do. Ah! Only one hint. Well, that was absolutely delightful. Now we could try a puzzle rush. Survival. I've never played this before. Black to move. Okay, so let's see. Okay. I'm terrible. Very slow. Okay, white to move. I think I've already lost this. Okay, black to move. Okay, here we go. Okay. Black to move. White to move. Oh, I got that one wrong. Oh. Okay. I accept. White to move. White to move. Okay, white to move. White to move. Black to move. Black to move. Black to move. Black to move. Oh. One more wrong and I'm out. I gotta get to 10. Okay, black to move. Harder than it looks. Black to move? Very interesting puzzle. Oh, I made 11. I'm doing so well. Black to move. Oh, here we go with the pawn thing. Oh, yes. Okay, here we go. Oh. That was fun and painful. And now, it's time to take a small blood pressure break. Back in a moment. We are back from our break. Thank you so much for being here. David Boles live and in concert. Oh, I wish I were in concert. If I could only clear the DMCAA licensing rules, we'd be in great shape. In some ways, we are making history in this moment, because in the 3-week history of broadcasting this live stream, we have never gone past the 11 o'clock hour. But because Comcast barfed or threw up or went into blackout mode today, we are now lucky to be with you because we started an hour late. So we'll be hanging around here with you for maybe another hour or so. And now it's that time of day again, where we have fun in writing together a human meme podcast script. So here's where things get interesting. When you come up with an idea, and you don't know if it'll work or not, but you hope it'll work. The idea I have this week for the script is this. There's an old saying in publishing, and especially in the online world, that you don't punch up. No, you do punch up, but you don't punch down. It's confusing, as I have just confused myself. What does that mean, punching up, punching down? In the case of, let's say, a blogger, mommy blogger, New York Times blogger, if you are a bigger blog, let's say, like you have 5,000 readers, and a smaller blog, let's say with 100 readers, writes something about you that's negative. That is a small blog punching up to you as the bigger blogger with 5,000 readers. Punch up. And that's okay. That's accepted. Now, the thing is, the big blog is not supposed to retaliate by punching down. On the smaller blogger. That's the courtesy, I guess, of online publishing. At least it was several years ago. Now it's probably all changed because everybody's a big blogger. But the idea is, if you're a bigger blog, if you have more readers, more articles, more established, you don't retaliate or answer back to a smaller blog. You just let it go. And taking this to the next step, you have something like the New York Times, which is the big, massive blogger on the block, publisher on the block. And everyone punches up at the New York Times. And you never really see the New York Times punch back, punch down to these other wannabes. Even if they're maybe on their same level, they do their thing. They're in their silo. We are the New York Times. And they do their own thing. Okay, I respect that. So that idea of punching up and down, power, not power. Oh, I like that. I'm going to write that down. Power, not power. Is important. And it could make for an interesting human meme podcast episode. So we're going to try to write that today. If you have any comments to share, you can pop them right there in chat. I'll be happy to listen to them and enjoy your thoughts that you choose to share. So punch up, punch down. Yeah, punch down. All right, so what we just discussed is what I just wrote. That's why I didn't speak it out like I usually do. But now we're going into new territory and we're expanding our thoughts, so I will share with you what I'm thinking as we write. So, for example, if a mommy blogger writes something negative about the New York Times, the New York Times, mommy blogger writes something negative, punching up. The New York Times shouldn't hit back, punch down, because they are bigger and stronger and the more influential source of insight and publication belonging. However, is that right? Should bigger publications just ignore the disputes, the punching, the antagonistic interrogation of what the bigger site published? Well, online publishing today is more about money and advertising than it is about getting along with each other and following social rules. Now, there are mistakes in this, but we always go back and fix that in a revision that we do later in the week together. This power dyad is all about control. Who controls the of information? Who is in charge of what is being taught on the page and being thought by the keyboard? Those of us who write for a living know the answer to that question is not always easy. There is a meanness and a method to those who are heard and those who we choose not to hear. Influence in publishing is like making a recommendation to those who think just like you. Yes, you're convincing the like-minded and the effortless, mindful, relational friendship. People publish, punch up and perhaps sideways, because they want to confirm their beliefs and assail their biases. It's just human nature to want to punish those who think different, thank you, Apple, from you. And to reward those who are stored in the same fuck silo as you. Those who choose to spend their time punching up want to be heard, taken seriously. But since there's a meme and a rules for belonging, they are rarely given the satisfaction of that attention. So how does the smaller voice, the minority voice, find a way to stand up and be heard against the violent wind of those entities who have taken over the majority mind share? That is a hard question to dissect, because power, entities, funny. Thank you, Google Docs. That is a hard question to dissect because power seeks power and approval never punches downward to the irrelevance of the smaller circle of influence. If you're joining us here on David Boles Live for the first time, I thank you so much for joining us. We've never streamed this late into the day before. We're usually done a little earlier, but today, because Comcast melted and we lost our internet and our phone and our television, we've been stuck here, waiting to go on the air live. So now we're meeting some new friends, making some new relationships, finding fun where earlier in the day we only found darkness and despair. And we are writing our podcast script for the week, and we write it together. Even if you're not saying anything, I feel you, I see you, I hear you. You are influencing what I write this very moment. And we're talking about punching up and punching down. Small blogs, small publishers like to punch up and try to give the big publishers a hard time. And the rule is, the big publishers kind of ignore everything. Well, you're a small-time publisher, I'm not going to punch down at you. And I'm not sure that's a good thing. I think everyone should be punching each other. Oh, I like that. Let's start right now. Punching up. To punch down is all relative. I think everyone should be punching each other. Sure. Why not? Let's have an all-out fight. Let's let the rabble rise and see who can come out of the winner. Influencers not need be stuck in a golden silo when they can be just as effective fighting from a Midwestern grain bin. Yes, power and punching need equilibrium to be understood and appreciated. If a big blog or publisher or online entity only listens to itself and not others because they don't want to punch or engage or get into a fight for thoughts and minds, then we all lose. Because in the fight comes the definition. In the war becomes the win. I know that's awkward, but I'm going to say it anyway. In the battle, to be righteous, yeah, and not just right, we all become better and bigger in the bloodletting. If you are small, I urge you to not be shy. Take a shot. Take a punch. Hit the big publishers in the soft spot. Where they don't want you to belong. If you happen to be a big publisher, I ask the same of you. Acknowledge those below you. Throw a punch their way. Test their resilience and rubberization. Give them a chance to bleed and be heard. Let them take a shot. You take a shot. Let the match be fair and ubiquitous. And may the honor and the value be won and awarded in the end to the publication that can take the hardest punch and still bounce back with relevance and ingenuity and morality and the absolute urgency of the day. All right, for a first draft, I think that works. Now we'll come back in a couple of days. We let this sit for a while, and we let it stew and brew in its own juices, because you never know what might sprout. We hope not mold, but maybe a seasoning and a reasoning will come out of it. And we'll go back and we'll fix all of these little things. Remember, when we do a first draft, we just sit down and we spill it all out. Like Henrik Ibsen, the playwright, said, when he would write a play, first you sit down and it's like a scorpion attacking a peach and injecting its poison into the peach as a release. Right? Then we come back later and we clean up the mess. Punching up, punching down. Punch and Judy. Maybe we'll put that in there somewhere. We'll look at that in a minute. Now, people don't know what Punch and Judy is, so I'll have to explain that if I want to use that. But that's for next time. We'll put this in brackets so we know, hey, we might use this, we might not use this, we don't know. But it could be funny. Funny can be good. If you have it ripe enough. Well, that's a big accomplishment. That took us about half an hour. Now we download to save, get it off Google, because you never know, the internet is unreliable. We learned that this morning for an hour and a half. And now, my friend, you know what time it is? Blood pressure time. I'm going to see you in one moment. we are back. We are in our 4th week of live streaming. Never been up this late. Sharing this early. Late, I guess. Sharing this late in the early day. We're usually finished by now, but we were delayed for quite a while this morning by Comcast as they melted down on the East Coast. I guess this rolling blackout started last night in San Francisco, where everything went down, and overnight it just rolled slowly all the way over to the East Coast. Until this morning around 8 in the morning, Pennsylvania went down, New Jersey went down, we're all down together. Quite a miserable experience. Well, today we had an interesting stream. We just did a lot of writing with our Human Meme podcast script, talking about punching up and punching down. And if you have any comments about that script, please let me know. I'm always interested in learning new things and sharing new ideas as memes, how we share knowledge propagates across the world and the universe and the world that we share together. Now, I do want to show you one quick thing. These are finger bands. And if you know, earlier in this in this live stream from last week, we did some work with some weights, we did some work with some rubber things that you pull and stretch. And we talked about kettlebells, and we talked about flex bands for golfer's elbow and tennis elbow. And I found these. I have several of these. I have 2. Red is the heaviest. Then I have 2 blue. I also have green and yellow somewhere. I don't know where they are. I looked for them so I could share them with you today, but they are missing in action. And what these finger bands do is work your wrist and your carpal tunnel, your elbow, inside and outside your elbow. And what these do is help you fix those problems. And one of the main things that many people don't realize is that when you type, the typing position should be like this. Too many people type like this with their heel of their hand resting on the keyboard. That's not good typing. That's going to hurt your wrist because your wrist is broken. You want to be arched over the keyboard like this. Yes, that's how you type. So that fixes, just fix, if you type a lot, just getting your hands off the keyboard. Never by a palm rest if you have a keyboard, because it puts your hands in the wrong position. Your hands need to be arched over the keyboard. I learned that in junior high school, 7th grade, typing class. But if you do have a problem with that, these finger band exercisers are really quite wonderful. And what you do is you take them and you put them over your fingers like this. Yeah. And then you stretch. And then you let it go. And then you stretch. And you let it go. And if you really want to get fancy, you get 2 of them. And you stretch. And you let it go. And you stretch. And then you try to hold it for as long as you can. Count to 10. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And release. Now what this does is it forces your fingers into an unnatural position that they don't have on their own in the real world. Fingers go like this. Fingers squeeze things. Fingers pick up things and pinch things and grab. Fingers don't go like this with force against them. It doesn't happen in the real world. That's why that works. So if you're typing a lot and you don't have finger bands, we talked about this earlier, go like this. You put your wrist and your fingers back in a position that they're not. They've been typing all day like this, especially if you're doing it wrong, typing like this instead of like this. Yeah? Don't do this. Do this. Yes. So you want to put your hands in the opposite position that they've been in all day. Now you can't do this for 8 hours like you're typing for 8 hours, but it does release the tension that has built up over 8 hours. So now it'll be really fancy. And we'll use our red bands and really go into this. And I'll show you these exercises as well. And if you have music, you can play the music too and dance with the music. So here we go. All right. Okay. Yeah. We're doing it. Getting it all in position. And you kind of want it to be on, if you can, the knuckle closest to your fingertip. So we're just going to go in and out 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. So we did that. And if you do that 3 times a day, your whole arm, your whole back of your hand is going to feel terrific, because we don't stretch this way normally. We need a band in order to do it. And these are special bands. You can use a rubber band if you have them thick enough and tight enough. Now we'll do the open sesame. Yes, like this. Open. Hold. Keep going as long as you can. As hard as you can. The world is waiting and the world is watching. Yes. Woo. Burning. And release. And that is how you exercise your fingers and your wrists and your hands and your forearms in a way that does not happen naturally in the world. I call them finger bands. Some people call them finger stretchers, but they're really terrific. They work great on your wrist and on your fingers. So today, as we said, has been kind of a wacky day. We didn't know if we'd be going live. We had a whole lot of things presented. Our normal viewership was thrown off a little bit because we didn't start when we were supposed to start. We started much later. And yet, we still survived together here as one. And there are a couple of things we didn't get to today, but we'll try to get to tomorrow. Interesting thoughts on radio broadcasting and working in the early days of radio, which sort of feels a lot like live streaming, to be honest with you, except with video. As they always say, he has a face for radio. Maybe not about me, but if it was said about me, I would accept it. We will also be discussing tomorrow these ideas of elitism, public versus private schools. And we'll talk about fathers and sons who disappoint them. It's a little touchy, a little painful, universal, but in that universal suffering, we will learn things about each other, and we will share thoughts and feelings and find ways forward. I do appreciate the multiple views on my video from yesterday. You can go to hardcoreasl.com and look, I think it's the second video after this live stream embed, where I talk about the TikTok thing and the hand signals for emergency indications of domestic violence. Understanding where that came from, why it is not being taught right or perpetuated in the proper way. If you have feedback on that, please find me online several places. Facebook.com/BOLES. You can find me on Twitter @DavidBoles. Send me a message. Instagram, Boles Books. We also have a Discord server. And we're new to Discord. We're trying to figure it out. But if you go to bolesblogs.com, look in the gutter. I call it the gutter, the right side gutter, but I guess it's called a sidebar. You'll see a link for our Discord server, and I believe if you click on that, then you can join our server. We'd love to see you there if you can't join us here in live chat. And we also talked about cultural appropriation and stealing one idea from one culture and placing it into your own hands to become something entirely different, with a different meaning and intention than what was originally applied to in the originating culture. And that's a problem too. And today we played some really bad chess. Played slightly better than we did last week. It's still a work in progress. We're working to be much better, much faster, and we're still very slow. But we're trying to get better. And isn't that what all this is about? Try not to stay where you are. Try to make yourself better just a little bit every day. And so I thank you for joining me today. It's been a wonderful stream. Meeting new people, sharing new things, new ideas, streaming later into the day. But that stream delay and lateness was a gift. It gave us the joy of being able to meet you and see you in real time. I thank you so much. I hope you'll be well. And we're doing it all again tomorrow, as long as Comcast doesn't black us out again. Take care, be well. I'll see you soon.